Hello you sexy beast and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we are taking a kind of a look, not really a review, but kind of a review at the same time, of a vehicle you don't really ever see being played in War Thunder, and probably for a very good reason. This is the BM-8-24 Soviet Tier 1 Battle Rating 2.3 Premium Rocket Launching Tank. Yes, this thing is equipped with 82mm rockets and doesn't have any gun. Not even a machine gun. The 24 rockets that come with this tank are mounted on the famous Katyusha launcher, mounted on top of a T-60 chassis if I'm not mistaken, although I might be wrong in this regard. Now this launcher is, well, probably one of the main reasons why this tank is never used, but not the only one. First of all, the launcher itself has a very limited firing arc, which means that this thing is more like a tank destroyer than a tank, and in fact it is classified as a tank destroyer, and it doesn't really have any depression. You see those -3 degrees of vertical guidance that you see on the stat cards. As you can see, if you perfectly level this thing, the rockets by themselves are already pointing up a little bit, so in fact you can barely shoot horizontally, much less downwards. You simply cannot fire down over the top of the tank. It just doesn't happen, which essentially makes this tank useless in almost every single point of the map, unless you are at a lower elevation or backing your ass up against the wall to get some depression down. Now the chassis itself is pretty unremarkable. Now it is very, very, very small, which is a very good thing. And you can indeed hide the chassis behind something whilst poking only the rockets out, which allows you to fire from cover. However, once your chassis is exposed, there's nothing really much that can stop anything. You have 30mm of armor on the lower glacis, 15 on the upper, angled back, a 35mm pretty much flat plate on the front as well, and so on. You get the point. You can maybe resist 50 caliber anti-aircraft fire, maybe, but not much else than that. Anything above 20mm is going to cut straight through your armor. Not to mention the side armor, which is only 15mm thick. Interestingly, the rear armor is 25mm thick, so even from the rear, you should be at least safe from 50 cals, unless they shoot through the top, which they are. But overall, armor is not a thing with this tank. The tank itself only weighs 5.8 tons, but also only has a 76 horsepower engine. That is extremely weak, even for a tank like this. Given it a rather mediocre to low power-to-weight ratio, this is not the kind of light tank that can just zip around the map. It really just is not. It's not all that fast, it struggles going over terrain due to the very narrow tracks, and only has a 43 km/h top speed, not to mention the almost inexistent reverse speed. Now in the X-ray you can probably see one of the main issues with this tank. Have you spotted it? Where's the crew? This tank only has 2 crew members, which means, yes, a single penetrating shot will always kill you. Unless they somehow manage to fuck it up completely and hit the engine block instead of even just scratching one of the crew members, you're going to die in one shot. This is one of the least survivable tanks in War Thunder. Now let's talk a little bit about the rockets. You have 24 82mm HE rockets. These sadly are not heat rockets, and as such they don't have much in the ways of penetration. The rockets travel at a velocity of only 260 meters per second, as such are quite hard to actually get on target, but thankfully, since there is no real delay between rocket fire, you can just continuously pump them out at a rate of fire of 180 rockets per minute. You can very easily expand your entire armament in a very short time. The problem is, well, they are HE rockets, 82mm HE rockets. And as you know, HE by itself is already pretty bad in War Thunder. It's not like the old glory days where the KV-2, which is one-shot kill everything, but at least the KV-2 is a 152mm cannon. And comparing this to other rocket tank likes, for example, the Panzerwerfer, which has 150mm rockets. These are only 82mm rockets, and as such they are quite weak and only have 24mm of penetration. Now, what does this exactly mean in terms of gameplay? Well, essentially most of your games are going to look like this. To give you a perspective of what you can actually do with these rockets, this is the Panzer IIIF. This is one of the tanks that you're going to face a lot at this battle rating. It's also a 2.3 tank, and it has 30mm of armor all around, except for the rear, which is where the engine is. Even the turret by itself is all 30mm around, so this tank is essentially invulnerable to your shots. Another tank that you'll see a lot, the Panzer IVF. 50 on the front, 30 on the sides. 20 here, so yes, your rockets can deflect downwards with the explosion, but you're only going to hit the driver, machine gun and transmission, which leaves the gunner more than able to one-shot you back. Alright, what about some American tanks? This is the M-22 Locust, light tank. Well, turret is completely invulnerable, the lower glaze is completely invulnerable. Thankfully, you can actually go through the upper plates. If you don't bounce your rockets, that is. Another thing that I have to mention is, even though it looks like you can easily go through the sides, you really can't. The rockets have a nasty tendency of being soaked up completely by any kind of structure, tracks, track wheels, stuff like that. Shooting at the side of a tank generally doesn't result in good results, since the turrets seem to be rather strong, and you can't really get your rocket all the way to the side armor plate. So as you can see, this thing does not seem like a good premium, and it is quite expensive as well. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 3,800 golden eagles when I bought it. So it isn't quite an expensive tank, and it's not very good. That being said, I managed to somehow get one game where everything went right, and I'm going to warn you, this game that I'm about to show you is not in any kind of way an accurate representation of what this tank can do. In fact, some of the shots there were completely bugs. I killed a tank that should theoretically be completely immune to my rockets, which had over 25mm of armor on the spot that I hit it. But somehow, it died. So, let's cue the game. Alright lads, here we are on the, well, new? It is kind of new, it came out with this patch. The Abandoned Factory map. We are playing on realistic mode in the BM-8. This is the game I was talking about. This is the kind of game that doesn't really ever happen in this tank. In the about 3 hours that I think that I've tried to play this tank and try to get some, well, gameplay for it, essentially, this is the only game where I actually got kills, if it makes any sense. So here's the thing. One thing I didn't mention quite in the hangar is the HE rockets are very excellent at one thing, and one thing only. Anything that's open-topped, anything that has exposed crew is just perfect fodder for this kind of tank, for this kind of, well, vehicle in general. Stuff like the new Japanese tank destroyer, the Horo, stuff like AA vehicles, AA trucks in general. That's where this thing really shines. That's where you can just spam the area, hit 1 or 2 shots, even in the near vicinity. You don't have to do it the vehicle directly, and you get the kill. Anything else though, anything else, it even has 25mm of armor, which almost every tank has. There are very few tanks that don't have 25mm of armor. In fact, out of all the tanks that I shot in this gameplay, I think only one didn't have the required amount of armor, which it was a... Actually, I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to see it when it happens. But yeah, only one of the tanks didn't really have the armor, and it was only from the side. From the front, you can't penetrate anything with this tank. You can literally expel all of your 24 rockets into an enemy vehicle, and nothing happens. And the worst part is, once you're out of those 24 rockets, in realistic mode, you're out. You cannot reload. The only way for you to reload is 2 rockets to kill that Chihakai, which, by the way, had more than 25mm of armor where I hit it. The rocket went into the turret ring somehow and bounced down into an ammo rack, if I'm not mistaken, killing the thing. We somehow just bounced a shot from a Panzer, which I think is a Panzer IV, a early tier Panzer IV, yeah. Panzer IV, which was the only tank, that was the only tank that didn't have more than 25mm of armor on the side. But yes, the first shot was bugged. That kill should not have been mine, much less with only 2 rockets. What I was saying is, most of the time when you face something with this tank, you can expend all of your rockets and all you're going to do is take out the tracks and maybe, if you're lucky, take out the gun barrel. And then they hose you down. And once you are out of those 24 rockets, you are out of the game, at least in realistic mode, because you cannot reload your rockets. The only way for you to reload your rockets in realistic mode is to go all the way back to a capture zone that you have, which, okay, in this game mode, it can work. But keep in mind, by the time you've driven up to the enemy, you've expended all your rockets, chances are the enemy is already closing in on your flag. And by that time you are defenseless. You don't even have a machine gun to ping the enemy position to for your teammates. So essentially, you have a tank that is completely under-armored, isn't mobile to make up for it. Okay, it isn't the slowest tank around, but it is not nearly as mobile as it would need to be, and not to be even slightly more effective or even work as a scout tank. Okay, given it is stealthy by itself, as that Type 94 A-truck had to figure out. And as I said before, the A-trucks are the perfect target for this tank. But overall, this tank is just not really worth it, especially not for the price. 3,800 golden eagles. You can buy so much other tanks for that price, which are much better and can help you out with the grind. This is a collector's tank. It is not useful whatsoever. Now, what I was mentioning, yes, it is kind of stealthy, but at the same time, the Katyusha launcher is big and bulky and will give your position away. Yes, you can fire from cover, but the rockets themselves don't really do anything. And since they are mounted so far apart, it's actually kind of hard to get accurate shots in with single rockets. You generally have to spam as many rockets as you can to even hit anything. As you can see, it doesn't really have enough mass even behind it to break through the defense. I have to get the run up, and the defense completely stops me in my tracks. It is just not a very good tank, but somehow I just love it. I don't know why. I guess that playing so much Panzermädels has conditioned me into loving pain, into appreciating cringe. But this tank is just fun. When you play this tank, you just know. You just know that you're not going to be competitive. It just doesn't happen. This is not a competitive tank. In fact, getting any kill in this tank is going to be a roll of the dice. And that's kind of what's fun about it. It's exciting and rewarding, especially. It doesn't really bother you that you don't get a kill, because you are already expecting to not get a kill. But it rewards you so much more when you actually do. It's a surprise every time. Every single time, especially during this game. I just went completely hyper. Every single time I killed an enemy, I was just went, "Oh, I killed something! I killed something! Oh my god, how did I kill something?" And that is exactly the kind of feeling this tank gives you. It's a tank that's so incredibly bad that it makes you feel good. And that was pretty much the gameplay. We don't get any more kills. In fact, in a little bit, there's a guy in the chat being complaining that a famous YouTuber, in parentheses, is going to be spawn camping, which, yes, we are. But there's not really anything that we can do with this thing. Oh yes, nice to see a streamer spawn camp with a rocket tank. Yes, but have you tried playing this thing? I even responded in chat, you do realize this thing is literally useless. And it is. This thing is just literally useless. But hey, it's fun. So, if you want to pick up yourself one of these tanks, don't waste your money on this if you have anything better to do. But if you want to just zip around with some friends, maybe get a Katyusha squad going and just saturate in an area in rockets, then hey, the BM-8 is for you. And this is pretty much it for this video. Short video on War Thunder, I know, kind of a rushed commentary, but well, I just had to do this. I just had to use this gameplay. I recorded this gameplay and it's been sitting on my hard drive for 2 weeks now and just need to use it. So, again, BM-8, not really good tank, but it works. You know what? Tell me your experience in the comment section down below if you've played this thing before. Have you ever even seen this tank? I've posted an image on Reddit with this tank and someone didn't even know what this tank was. So, if you liked this video, don't forget to leave it a like rating, comment what you think about this tank, and as always, if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lies with your shattered frame of mind. that you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find